show. Because we haven't been saying that after our...
No, we haven't. And yeah, so maybe when he signs off.
Yeah.
Because I go through and I split it up afterwards and then.
Oh, you do put that in there though?
Yeah, I do like advertisings and stuff. And we.
Like that.
I know. Welcome to the show, Mary. We're just waiting for our guest to log on tonight and we'll get going. All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Tango Talks Live. I, of course, am Tango, and I'm here with my ever so lovely
Angela.
Yeah.
Hey, Tango. What's going on?
I'm doing pretty good, and we have an awesome guest for tonight. We have the creator of the Strategic Human Firewall, cybersecurity awareness expert and good guy hacker and private investigator, Robert Siciliano. Did I say that right? I hope I said that right.
Excellent. Nice job. Perfect.
Oh, well, you come through nice and clear, though. So tonight he's going to deliver some straight talk on safety and security and stripping away that jargon to empower everyday protection. Welcome to the show, Robert. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing really well. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Absolutely. So we were just sitting here before the show. And we were looking at your profile here and trying to decide what we wanted to do as our main focus. And I think I already picked it out, like the AI scam wave and the deep fakes and stuff like that. Because I was just talking to a customer today, and we're getting so many of those now where you think you're talking to somebody and you really have to pay attention.
You know, I've been doing what I do for 30 something years. And at the conclusion of every single presentation that I do, like I get up in front of live audiences and I, do security talks, right? And when I am done, because, they're always like, coming up to me at the end, they're like, oh, you scared the heck out of me and this and that. And I'm like, listen, the main thing is don't worry about any of this because, worry affects the quality of your life. I say, don't worry about any of this. Just do something about it. As long as you do something, you'll be fine. Right. But the reality of it is I'm kind of worried right now. As long as I've been doing this, I've never seen such perfect fraud being executed at such a high rate of speed, And the AI stuff, the deepfakes, the voice cloning, it is perfect. Like you don't really know when you're looking at a video, like a Facebook reel for that matter, Yep. Something on YouTube, like you see when creators, like they'll make, a bunch of dogs and cats living in harmony together, You'll see like people do some amazing things, You'll see just a variety of videos that like you just can't tell, and these same videos are getting like millions and millions of views and shares, yep. and people are just enamored, and it's just fake. Right,
right. I've been taken by a couple of them. I've had to play them a couple of times. Like that can't be. There's no way that's possible. I mean, obviously the dancing cats. Everybody's got to understand that's obviously real or fake. But some of those videos are just like, holy mackerel! Those things are really, really hard to tell if they're real or not.
Yeah, and so the naked eye can't tell. Obviously, there are companies that have technology that you could run a video feed through something to say, hey, this is real or fake, and they'll tell you the difference. But when you're using this for purposes of fraud to outright scam somebody, whether it's a deep fake video or it's a voice clone, the instances where those are brought up are generally like in environments where it's a phone call posing as your daughter in the background screaming. She's desperate because she's been kidnapped, and the scammer gets on the phone. It's a male's voice who's threatening you and your daughter unless you pay the ransom. And it's like these scams are so unbelievably outlandish, but when you have your loved one screaming in the background and you recognize the voice, it
freaks you out.
Yeah.
It changes you. It freaks you out. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we've seen, I know I've seen some of those things come across like, the watch out for these kind of things, like on the radio, on the news, because of that reason. And a lot of times they seem to, maybe not a lot, but most often you see it with that they're targeting older people.
Yeah. So let me give you some insight to what's going on there, right? All right. So my dad, for example, he's a baby boomer. right? My dad is 78 years old, right? And, like he worked his whole life. He saved, he understood compounded interest when he was young. And every dime he had, he put in the bank as it grew. He put it into, Roth IRAs. He had a pension, annuity. He did it right. He invested in the stock market. He was a conservative investor. And, over time, of course, he paid off his mortgage. He did what most, blue collar, white collar, 40-year, 50-year employees do. Okay. So that generation, the baby boomers, they are, I don't know if people realize this. Some people are aware of it. They're worth about $124 trillion.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So like my dad, his generation, including like the greatest generation, also known as the silent generation, they got a ton of money. And that money, is as a result of a life's work and saving and equity in their homes. And that money is the target of a lot of these scams right now. Okay. So what does that actually mean? It means that my dad, like many, they get the phone calls, they get the emails, they get the wrong number text messages, they get the pop-ups on their computer that there's something wrong and Microsoft's got to log in to see what's happening.
Oh my goodness, I've had that. My business partner's had that happen so many times. I just keep saying, stay off the porn site, you won't have that problem.
That's actually kind of true. Yeah, there's truth to that, unfortunately. But yeah, so like they're worth all that money. So that is the target of a lot of the fraud that we see today. And so understand what's going on in the background here. Number one, you've got this moneyed demographic, this generation that is the most trusting left on the planet. They just trust, right? And then you have them are the least technically savvy. Okay. And really, they're cognitively declining because, we all are to some degree, right. But like that's the perfect storm for a lot of these frauds. And what that also means is that, and most people don't truly understand this, human beings, 25% of us regularly wake up every day, and our default when we get out of bed is that we have a feeling of loneliness. 25% of all humans on the planet regularly experience loneliness. And bad guys know all this. Yeah. But you see, loneliness is a very normal part of just being human. I think like everybody to some degree has experienced loneliness at some point in their lives. Okay.
Right.
But like, loneliness, they say the pain and the ache of loneliness is no different than hunger pains. Like we get hunger pains purposefully to drive us towards eating food to nourish our bodies so that we would, survive. If we didn't have hunger pains ever, which is what things like Wegovy and all that stuff, they turn off a part of your brain so you're not hungry. But if we didn't have hunger pains, we just wouldn't eat. If we were never lonely, we wouldn't gravitate towards humans. Therefore, we wouldn't procreate. So the pain and ache of loneliness is a very normal thing. But bad guys know that like in this state of being, lonely, cognitively declining, moneyed, trusting, like these are all perfect targets. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I've met some of these people like face to face, one-on-one that have been victimized where they're losing like I've met victims that lost $600,000 over the course of like three. Yeah. It's devastating. It's devastating. And these scams at this point are perfect and they work. And most people are completely unprepared for this stuff.
Wow. That's 600,000. That's a lot of money. But me and a customer of mine was just talking today, and he was saying like he's getting all these scams on, scam calls on his phone. And he goes, what is there? 19 million people in New York State alone. And if they get just $2 from everybody, they're making a boatload of money. Yeah. Well, they're making a boatload of money due to the fact that they've got, a huge target market. And that they're using artificial intelligence to scale their operations. So when we receive all these phone calls, emails, and wrong number text messages,
there doesn't even necessarily need to be a human on the other end of the line who's orchestrating it. All of it's done, via robocalls and robotexts. And even when you respond to them, it's all automated. Many of it is done by robots, essentially, that recognize, human behavior. They know how to read a text message. They know how to respond to a text message. So it sounds like it's coming from a human.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you say that because I had on my phone for a while this program called M1, and it's an AI assistant. So it would pick up you record your voice into it, and then it would pick up the phone if I couldn't get to the phone, and it would take messages and it would direct people to pricing. I mean, you can set it up as deep as you want to go. But then I started getting nervous. It's like, well, my customers are going to start like freaking out because I've had a couple of people leave messages like, oh, it's an AI, and so I took it off my phone. I got nervous. I think, are people going to get nervous when they're calling my phone and an AI is picking it up instead of me?
Yeah, there is a fine line. I've been saying my entire life, I wish I had two of me so that, I could get twice as much done. I think everybody has said that at one point. But an AI really is that two of you at this point. And if you know how to use it, it can be three or even four of you if you really know how to use it. But the problem is, like, there is a fine line between that personal touch and having that robot function and pose as you. People are not quite ready for all of that stuff yet. The bad guys are ready to use the technology for bad, but the good guys, we have to kind of be careful with all that.
Yeah, I think I had it on for like a month, and even my husband was like, that's just kind of creepy. I know it's not you, but I mean, it's good, but I was like, yeah, I'm going to take it off.
Yeah. And, right now, I've never seen more high dollar frauds occurring in such a concentrated period of time where I'm seeing 6 and 7 figure losses, weekly, for men and women like my age, in their 50s, 60s, some of them in their 70s, certainly in their 80s. And they're losing this money at such a high rate of speed. And there's nobody really saying much about it. There's nobody often in their lives intervening because they don't even know what's happening. The younger generations are, in some cases, kind of clueless about this stuff. And I think it's really important right now that, all those listening to this podcast know that, like, there are people in your life that are vulnerable. There are people in your life that,
I've had a person that I used to live with, and she had her PayPal account hacked like 3 times, and I had to sit down and explain to her. It's like, listen, when you get these emails, don't just assume because it's got a PayPal logo and it says this. Look at that actual web address. Make sure it says PayPal.com and nothing before it, nothing after it, because that's how they're getting you. You're going in, you're logging in, and you're not logging in. You're just giving them your information.
Yeah. The best advice is to tell them pretty much 100% of the time when you get emails, don't respond to them. I mean, just don't respond.
My business partners bring things to me all the time. They're like, is this real? And I look at it and I go, no, that's fake. Delete it.
Anytime you get prompted by any entity that we do business with, whether it's Amazon or eBay or PayPal or Venmo or anybody, even a colleague, right? If it's a colleague, call them, text them, right? If it's any business, log into the account in which you possess to see if there's any messages waiting there for you.
Yep,
and you don't. Yeah, exactly. And you don't log in via the link in the body of the email. No. Yeah. So as long as people understand that, like, just bypass the email, don't automatically trust that stuff, and generally you'll be in pretty good shape.
A quick little break in our show, as we normally do. And we're going to start off this week, before we get too far into the show, of my drink for tonight. And it is one that a friend of mine brought down, and it is Founders Red Sweater IPA. And if you like IPA beers, this is right up there, because it's very enjoyable, and I think I'm probably going to have another one before the end of the show. But it's Indian Pale Ale, and it's in this nice red can, and it's actually quite good. But I don't find it really, really heavy and filling, but it's got a nice IPA taste to it, and I'm really enjoying it. So yeah, back to the show. I've noticed, though, probably in the last maybe 6 months or so, though, like, just the amount of spam text messages I get. And they usually, a lot of them start off with like, hey, I thought we were going to meet today. And you're like, it makes you stop for things like, wait, did I miss an appointment today? But then I look at it and it's like, well, I don't recognize the number. And then I'm like, well, who is this? And then it's like, oh, this is so-and-so. I was like, yeah, okay, I don't know you. And I just block them and get rid of them. But it's amazing how many of those I get now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so all of that is done via robo-texting. Okay, so these are entities that have access to technology that, just like a political campaign uses the same technology to, boost their brand, get you to vote for them and so forth. That same technology is available to bad guys. But in many cases, they're bypassing all the normal controls that might be considered spammy and this and that because they don't care, right? They're just going to send out millions to billions of text messages and they could care less if they get dinged by the federal government for spamming because, they're basically like overseas. They could care less. You can't even find them. All right. And the idea behind these wrong number text messages is really simple, actually. So when people get those texts, right, most people delete them and most people mark them as spam. I respond to all of them.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. I respond to all of them essentially so I can understand, what the motivation is, what it's for, what they're trying to accomplish. And I do respond. And generally, here's what happens, right? So to dissect this for you a little bit, I get the text message, hey, I'm sorry, are we supposed to have lunch tomorrow? It says, and I'm like, I'm sorry, who's this? And they respond with, oh, do I have the wrong number? I'm sorry, this is Gloria.
Oh, yeah.
Who am I speaking to? And I'm like, oh, my name is Rick. I go by Slick Rick online, right? And so the dialogue is, oh, hi, Rick. This is Gloria. Really nice to meet you. I'm in Coral Gables, Florida. Where are you? And I'm always saying that I'm from New York because New York is like, the capital of the world. And then from there, like, she's like, oh, and she sends me a picture. And it's always a beautiful female from like Russia or something,
Right. With her boobs hanging out.
Yeah, exactly. And then the dialogue begins. So, Rick, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I'm a roofer, and I have a crew of like, 10 guys and we go back and forth. And immediately she comes out of the gate with like, oh, I'm a model. I'm into cryptography and I invest in gold and I have a small cosmetics company. Okay. And so when I engage these scammers, what happens is like every day from that point on, morning, noon, night, 6 to 8 times a day, sometimes more, they constantly are sending messages. Okay. And all these messages, like, for example, you wake up in the morning, there's a message waiting from Gloria. Good morning, dear. How did you sleep last night? Right. And then she's like, I slept really good last night. And then she's like, I'm meeting with my girlfriends this morning for breakfast. And then I'm going to yoga and I'm meeting with my team this afternoon to discuss my investments. What do you have going on? And then throughout the day, I'm getting pictures of her when she's coming out of yoga, pictures of her on a boat, pictures of her with her friends, and then I get a picture of like her grocery cart and the food that she just bought. And a lot of these photos and a lot of this interaction is kind of mundane, actually. Like it's not really her flirting with me. It's certainly not me flirting with her because I'm just not doing any of that. It's not like I love you, I miss you, I want to be with you. It's more just building rapport. Right. It's more just
getting comfortable.
That's it. It's all about just building a dialogue, just engaging in human conversation. There's not much more than that. Okay.
But the more you engage, though, aren't they like compiling? I know it's all fake information because that's what you're getting, but they're compiling all that information.
Oh, they're asking questions like, do you make investments? What, like, again, what kind of work do you do? Do you have any investments? Do you invest in cryptocurrency? Are you married? Do you have any kids? What kind of house do you live in? Do you have a boat? Like they want to know like what kind of lifestyle you live. And a lot of these questions being a bit mundane, you are essentially giving away a little bit of intelligence, like so that they can use that stuff about or against you. Okay. And so what happens usually after 1 to 2 weeks is they say, hey, let's get on a WhatsApp call.
Wow.
And what they want to do is they want to get on video. They want to get on a WhatsApp video. And from there, and I've done this, you get on WhatsApp video and on the other end is an actual human. Right. This I'm having a conference call with somebody, a video call. What I've found is what they usually do is they engage in face overlay, AI face overlay. So you're looking at this person who has somebody else's face on their body.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Oh, so like they're making
I thought that was in movies.
Yeah, they're making it look like it's the person that they sent the picture to you to begin with.
Thank you. Exactly. Okay. You get
That's
it.
Creepy.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So that's what's happening now. And the idea behind the video is like this personal connection. And it's also to build trust, because they want you to, essentially go down their rabbit hole, so to speak, right? And by making them real, somebody you can actually have a video call with, it becomes more real. And that helps to solidify the trust. Okay. And so once that happens, within days, she sends off a message with a screenshot of her cryptocurrency investments. Look at how much money I'm making, she says. I'm making 80% on my investments. I know that you work really hard, Rick. Would you be interested in me helping you make some money in crypto?
Everybody, we're almost halfway through the show here, and I'm just going to do our little selfless promotion here. If you're looking to be a part of a fun and informative show, we are now to the point where we are taking paid advertisements. We've gotten to the point where we've got over 1,300 people, and we're these are and guests from all over this great country. And not only that, but we are now rated in the top 4% on Podmatch, and we are getting more and more requests to be on the show. In fact, we are booked out till April 21st at this point in time. So now's a great time to get in on this show, and you get a good at least 45 seconds to a minute or more if I ramble on like I normally do. But I think it's a great opportunity. It's a pretty low price, for advertising. Anywhere else you're going to get it. But yeah, give us a call, or drop us an email at talk@tangotalks.live or sales@hmprintdesign.com. You can also go to our website and contact us on there, which is hmprintdesign.com. We're all over the place. And we're on SiriusXM, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Pandora. Let's see, iHeartRadio. I mean, the list just goes on. We are literally everywhere. So yeah, get in on it, and you can either read the information yourself or give us the script and we'll read it out, and you can have one of us do it or both of us do it, or however you want to get it done. But let's get in on it. All right, let's get back to the show.
And then she sends off screenshots of the apps that she has on her phone, which she uses to invest in crypto. And then she's providing instructions screenshot by screenshot. Download these 2 apps. Once you download them, opening it up right here. Click on this link. Connect your bank account here. Connect your credit card here, and so forth.
And that's where they got you. Yeah.
Well, this is the beginning of it, right? This is where they start to say to you, hey, I know that you're working like 8, 10, 12 hours a day. If you want, I can manage your accounts for you. And so once they start managing your accounts, then they start showing you screenshots, fake screenshots of how your investments are growing. So just like any Ponzi scheme that's been going on since the 30s, this is a Ponzi scheme. And they're providing fake, like not invoices, but screenshots of how your investments are doing. And they'll even point you to a website where you can go online and you can see it live in real time. All of it is generated by AI. every bit of it. And early on, if you wanted to, you could actually take some of that money out. You could actually like make a little bit of money early on. But what they're encouraging you to do is keep investing, because when $1,000 turns into 1,500 and 1,500 turns into 2,500, 2,500 turns into 5,000. And before you know it, you're dropping in 10, 20, 30,000. And the people that I've met, like, you know, generally seniors, elderly couples, like in their 70s, mid 70s, retired, you know, living the life. They worked all their lives. They you know, pretty much own their home with a very small mortgage, if that. You know, now like they're liquidating their financial accounts to invest in crypto. Yeah. And the couples that I've met, not only did they invest all of their finances, they mortgaged their houses. Because it was such a great opportunity, so to speak. And they're thinking that they're making like $2-3 million off their investments after investing like $600,000. They go to take the money out and everybody and everything disappears.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just sad. I mean,
it's brutal.
It is. I mean, I can't imagine. I mean, that's all I do is worry about retirement. I think my husband's about done of me complaining about it, but you know, that's what I do. I worry about it. You know, I don't want to be a Walmart door greeter. I mean, I don't have anything against that, but it's not what I want to do when I'm 72. But you know, stories like that just scare the hell out of me.
And the people that I've met, like, they're essentially going bankrupt. You know, and I've heard even worse. You know, like contemplating just. Yeah, it just gets bad. Okay. And so there are people in our lives right now, close to us, that this is what they're kind of looking at. Okay. And the key is that people like you and I that are a bit more savvy to this stuff, right, have to share this information. We have to tell the people in our lives, this is what's up. We can't just sit on it. We can't just keep our fingers crossed. We truly need to educate the most vulnerable in our lives. Exactly. And when you actually sit down and you discuss this with your family, it really cements the information for life. Like, it really does when you communicate it to, like, you know, spouses and kids and parents and siblings. You make it a part of like family discussion. It becomes a lifelong learning experience that people just are not going to forget. And I don't know that we have these conversations with our family to the degree that we should. I know I do, but too many people don't. And that helps the bad guy when we don't talk about these things.
Correct, because they stay in the shadows and nobody knows about them.
Yeah, exactly. And they are in the shadows and they are out there. You know, I've been saying, I've been doing what I do, like I said, for all of my adult life. And I've come to the conclusion that as many as 2 to 3% of the world's population are what the medical community might call antisocial personality disorders, right? And they might be categorized as sociopaths or psychopaths. Okay. That is just an unfortunate fact of life. And those sociopaths and psychopaths that live amongst us, they don't experience empathy, sympathy, guilt, or remorse. You know, like, their default is no shame whatsoever. Okay. And they're the ones that target me and you and your mom and all that stuff. And they always have been, they are, and they always will be out there looking for their next, you know, victim, so to speak. Right. And the majority go ahead.
I always get, like, when you were talking earlier about the whole WhatsApp. As soon as somebody wants to do something on WhatsApp, I get skittish. I just don't trust that platform. It just seems like every conversation I've ever had on it is overseas. Yeah.
And the moment that they want to move from text message to WhatsApp, that is 100% a scam, you know? And when we see it like that, we have a better chance of, you know, warding off the bad guy and becoming a tougher target. Right. So knowing that this is the case and that the perpetrators of these scams on WhatsApp that I'm communicating with on video, what I've come to learn is that, you know, the woman in this case that I'm actually communicating with, she's not this Russian model, but what she is a young a female of Asian, a young Asian female in Southeast Asia. Okay. And she's being held against her will. What that means is the United Nations right now has come to the conclusion that somewhere around the vicinity of 300,000 men and women worldwide are currently being held in human trafficking against their will. Specifically, 300,000 is specifically to commit cybercrime on unsuspecting victims. The compounds in which these victims of human trafficking essentially where they are, like Myanmar, Southeast Asia. Right. Some of these compounds are as many as like 80, 100 acres, barbed wire fence, right? Housing, cafeterias, technology, and the victims of human trafficking are being held against their will. In 18 hours a day, they're scamming because essentially they have a gun to their head. They have to do this. They have no choice. And if they don't make their quotas, they're beaten and tortured. So the victims of these scams that are actually perpetrating the scams that I communicate with when I'm on WhatsApp video and being texting, I'm not like scam baiting them. Like, I'm not trying to trip them up. I'm not trying to make their lives difficult. I'm just really there for the learning experience. Like, in no way do I ever discredit them or say anything to get them in trouble, because I don't want to do that, because I know what type of a situation they're in. But all one has to do is a quick search to find out, that is the case. And when organized crime is using 300,000 people who are victims of human trafficking as slave labor, that if they've got 2,000-3,000 people per compound, that this is what they're doing day and night, they're making billions and billions of dollars. And what chance do we have against something like that if we're not A, aware of it, B, talking to our family about it, and then C, making sure that the most vulnerable populations in our immediate lives, we have some type of insight or say over their finances, so they just can't go and, wire 50 grand, 100 grand to somebody who is either threatening them or is promising them some type of an investment.
Right. Wow. That's a lot of information to absorb right there. And I don't know, it's kind of scaring the hell out of me a little bit, especially I don't have to worry about my parents. My father passed away a couple years ago and my mom's in a nursing home, but we have other family members for sure that are in that age group and definitely don't know, what to look for and the people I work with don't even know what to look for sometimes.
Well, the good news is, we share podcasts like this. We have these conversations. I call these in some cases like the uncomfortable conversations that people don't often have with certain people in their lives. And I think that at some point in your life, we need to have this dialogue because, being forewarned is being forearmed. Okay. Right. And so the more informed we are, the more aware we are about these things, the better off we are. And like I said, don't worry about these things, but definitely do something about it. And once we do something about it, we stand a much better chance. And there's more than just, these devastating scams, like the absolute basics. You can start these conversations with managing passwords, setting up 2-factor authentication, updating your hardware, updating your software, doing the absolute basic things to make sure that your devices themselves are properly protected. Setting up what's called a credit freeze to protect your identity. Do you guys have a credit freeze?
We have the ability to do it, but and I've heard of it, but we've never used it.
All right.
Yeah, wow. I don't think I know I have it. Are you talking about?
Wow.
Are you specifically talking about
you go to your credit union
your credit card or your any of those things?
Like TransUnion, I thought you can freeze your credit.
Accounts. Yeah.
It's actually correct. It is the credit bureaus.
Yes. Okay.
So TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, they have been providing what's called the credit freeze since February of 2008, which is exactly when I froze my credit, like that month. And that has been around since that time. So what are we going on? Like 17 years of credit freezes. And they became free back in about 2018-19 after the Equifax data breach. Congress passed a law making credit freezes free. So if you are unsure if your credit's frozen, you probably don't have a credit freeze, because it's one of those things where you can't just go out and like get a new credit card, get a new line of credit. You can't lease a vehicle. You can't just go out and get credit, like buy a home, refinance your house. You can't just get credit without temporarily thawing that credit freeze. Okay. And so once you freeze it, and it's pretty easy to do, what I always suggest that people do is go to Google and search credit freeze TransUnion. And then you'll see on the first page of search, transunion.com/credit freeze. Click that link and you set up an account with TransUnion. And then do the same thing for credit freeze Equifax. You'll see the link right in the first page of search, credit freeze Experian. And before you know it, like after maybe 15, 20 minutes, your credit is frozen at all three bureaus. So going forward, anybody who gets your social security number, which is not a difficult thing to do. I've actually had criminal hackers email me my own social security number. Hey, security guy, here's your social. Ha ha. Like literally. And I could care less because, you know, my credit's frozen and there's really not much they can do with my, social security number if my credit's frozen. Right. And so if you do that, the bad guys, when they get your social, because they will get it eventually, you know, we've all had either our data exposed with different insurance companies and healthcare providers or banks or whoever, government agencies. Once it's exposed, you know, there's not much you can do about it other than the perfect plan is just to freeze your credit now so that when the bad guys get to you, they can't do anything with it. You're essentially making that social security number and your credit useless to a thief once you freeze it.
I'm pretty sure if I were to go inside right now, my husband's probably already on the computer logging into each one and freezing each one for us.
It's a good thing.
He listens to the show pretty religiously, and it wouldn't surprise me if he was doing it. I know I've done it in the past, but I know I haven't probably utilized it in probably at least 10 years. So
it's a good thing. I would suggest going in at least once a year. If you're not in the game of getting credit, no credit cards, no leases, whatever the case is, at least log in once a year just to make sure that everything works as it's supposed to, because sometimes they change URLs, sometimes they change over their systems. So by going in just periodically, you're making sure that your credit freeze, A, is still active, B, you can thaw it when you need to thaw it.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think I've done this for myself here a couple of times, but explain to people that are listening to this the whole dark web reality check.
All right. So this is not all that difficult, right? So I tell people plain and simple, your information's on the dark web. Right? My information's on the dark web, right? The sky is blue, water is wet, chocolate is yummy. Your information's on the dark web. It's just a fact of life at this point, you know? And there have been about 175 billion with a B records exposed in the past 10, 15, 20 years. 175 billion. Names, addresses, phone numbers, email addresses, account numbers, many account numbers, and about 15 billion of those 175 billion are passwords. So 15 billion passwords on the dark web. So the idea behind this and all of this is like, you know, I get calls and emails and texts from friends, family, you know, those in my audience. Oh, I got a notification that my information is on the dark web. What do I do? I say, really, there's not much you can do. Once it's on there, it's not like you're going to get it off. But what you can do, and it's pretty easy actually, and the idea is to make the data that the bad guy has useless to the thief. Okay, what does that actually mean? So to make a password, so the bad guys have your passwords. How would you make a password useless to a thief?
I have no idea.
Change it.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was looking for a more deeper answer. Like I'm thinking really what's he getting at?
This stuff is so simple. So change your passcodes, right? How else could you make a password useless to a thief?
Right. I use a program called LastPass.
Yep.
And it actually sends me an email every once in a while. And anytime I'm using it, it'll say, we found that you've used this password 3 times. And it wants me to go in and change them all the time.
That's not a bad thing. So the password manager, which is a great tool, is watching your back. It's helping you manage your passwords, and it's helping you to create long, strong passwords, and you're never using the same passcode twice. The other way to make a password that the bad guys have access to, in addition to changing it, is setting up 2-factor authentication. Yeah. So that's when you get that one-time text message before you log in. 2-factor authentication is the next best thing to changing passwords, and it should be implemented in addition to changing your passcodes.
And I only chuckle because, so I'm the administrator for our office accounts at work, and I have that turned on by default. And it's all I hear all day long is people swearing throughout the office, like these freaking text messages. And all I want to do is check my emails. Like, but it's there because, we don't need somebody getting into corporate data, and getting to our stuff. That's why you have to, it's a simple text message. Not like, you got to remember, a 45-digit passcode. It's just, but all day long they complain about it. I was like, I know it can be annoying, when you're logging in and out of web pages and applications, stuff like that. But what's the alternative?
There isn't any alternative. The alternative is getting hacked,
Right.
And when I poll, getting in front of live audiences, when I poll my audiences, I ask, a lot of questions in regards to their personal security, right? And I like simple questions like, how many of you are using a different passcode across all your critical accounts? Generally, if I get 15% of the room to raise their hand, that's a lot, which means that 85% of the room is using the same passcode across multiple accounts. Additionally, I'll ask, how many of you are using 2-factor authentication across all your critical accounts? If I get 20% of the room are using 2-factor authentication, that's a lot. So that means that like 80 to 90% of the room is using the same passcode across multiple accounts and not using 2-factor authentication, which makes them and their data, their information, highly vulnerable to thieves. And often the first thing the bad guys want to do is they want to get inside your email. Like getting inside your email, that basically allows them to change the passcodes to all of your accounts.
Right.
So,
funny, not funny story. So, Angela and I just bought out a local printing company, and we got their computers. So we got the computers here, and I asked one of the other people, I was like, "So, what's the passcode to this?" She's like, "Password." I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, yeah, it's and I literally just looked at her and said, wait, your password is password for your computer. She's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, that's enough said. I wiped the system completely and started all over.
Yeah. Password as a password is used like 200 or 300 million times.
Yeah.
So when you see like that's like a legit figure. When you hear about these data breaches, what security researchers do is they download like all that stolen or found data, and they search it out. Like they catalog it, they quantify it, and often they find 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the most used password. We're talking hundreds of millions of people are using that as passwords. And if you're doing the absolute basic things like password manager, 2-factor authentication, you become what they call a tougher target. You make it so much harder for the bad guy. And knowing that 80% of us are very vulnerable, that maybe 10 to 20% of us have our basic security in place. If you are one of those people that has your basic security in place, then what the bad guys do next is they just go back to that 80% that are doing nothing. It's kind of like that story about, there's 2 guys in the woods and there's a bear chasing them. And and one guy says to the other, I don't need to outrun that bear. I just need to outrun you.
Right.
Absolutely right.
Right. Right. So the reality of it is, as long as you are, just doing the basic things, you're going to be pretty good, because so many people don't.
Hey everybody, I'm back again, and hopefully you are enjoying this show. What an informative person Robert is, and just brilliant with the amount of information here, and just smart ideas to help protect yourself and people you care about. But we're into our segment now, Tango Tech, and today I'm just going to talk about some fun stuff. So I'm a huge I shouldn't say huge, but I like to, when I get a new vehicle, I like to, make it my own, and I add all these little things to it, gadgets and, vinyl graphics and stuff like that too. I mean, I'm not going to go out and have it repainted and striped and stuff like that, but, just some fun stuff in it. So I just recently got a 2025 Ford Maverick in this eruption green, which I absolutely love. And, I wanted to make the interior a little bit more, me. So if you look online, usually I get stuff from Amazon, believe it or not, even Timo. And I should start charging for name dropping on this show. But if you just do a general search on the internet, you can find all these cool things. So I found these rubber knob covers for the dash, so it covers and just adds like this nice bright orange ring around everything. There's also a piece that goes on the steering wheel cover that's orange. I found another piece that's coming in shortly, hopefully, but I have the Lariat version of the truck. So on the side markers, I've replaced those with some light up Lariat markers on it instead of just the black cover-ups. And then of course I've got the white animated strip on the front, and when you open the doors on my car, this little alien head gets projected down on the ground, which is very, very cool. So it's just some fun stuff, and you can find this stuff all over the place. It was a little difficult with a newer vehicle, but I still found some cool and fun stuff, and I recommend it to anybody. If you're going to drive this car every day, you might as well have fun in it and enjoy it. But yeah, so that's my little tech tip for today. And back to the show and with Robert. Yeah, I try to secure stuff. I got 2-factor authorization on just about everything. It is annoying. I'll have to agree with that, because all day long I got to keep picking my phone up to do stuff. But the people that we bought these computers from, they got hacked one time, which you'd think she would have learned and not use password for password. Right. But they got hacked and had, things taken off their computer and, stuff destroyed on their computer. And it's like, but.
So do you think it's just, do you think we're just lazy, or do you think we're just kind of thinking that there's still some good out there and people won't do that? What? I
think it goes back to the first question. There's the whole it won't happen to me.
Okay, I'm really glad that you guys are heading down this road with me, because if you really want to get to the bottom of things, let me tell you how this all works. Okay, so human beings, right? We're going back to birth. All right, this is not that difficult. It's actually once you hear me out, it's going to make perfect sense to you why we resist security. Okay, so human beings from birth trust by default, right? And we trust because we don't really have any other choice. We are what is considered an interdependent species, and an interdependent species requires that we trust one another. I need to trust you, you need to trust me to a degree. Trust is our default, because as an interdependent species, procreation is how we stay alive to further the species. And right. To procreate, you essentially have to trust that these other people that you're in contact with as social creatures have your best intentions. Okay. All right. So trust is our default. That's number one. And security is about not trusting people. Security is, predators, it's sociopaths, it's psychopaths, it's thieves, it's people that mean to hurt and harm me. And nobody truly wants to acknowledge that. We don't want to think about that. We don't want to think that somebody's going to hurt or harm us. It's
Can I raise my hand now? Because that's who I am. I don't trust anybody.
Yeah. I think we're both like that. Yeah.
That's why I lock my shit down.
Okay. So, I hear that all the time. And listen, here's what I say to that. Just hear me out, right? When people say, I don't trust anyone, and I say, you know what? Yeah, you do. You do. You still need to. Okay. Because you do. We may say, I don't trust anyone, but you truly do. I mean, you do. You trust the person sitting next to you. You trust the people that you are in the grocery store with, that you're shopping with. You trust the people that you're standing in line with. When I say you trust them, you're not hiding in a corner waiting for them to hit you with an axe. You generally,
right.
You generally trust that the people around you are good. We do. We just.
All right, so I'll just say then from now on, I'll just say I'm just a little bit more suspicious than other people.
Yeah, you exactly. You're just a little bit more, strategic in regards to your trust. You're not automatically trusting. You're a bit more skeptical. You're a bit more aware. You're a bit more cognizant that trust is really overrated. And that you can't just by default always trust everyone and everything. But many of us just do that. Okay, so that's one part of the equation, that we trust by default. The other part is, so I ask these questions, how many of you have a home security system? And when I ask that question, I usually get about 15% of the room raises their hand. Yes, they have a home security system, which means that 85% don't. All right. Well, in a country where there's a burglary, essentially 1.5 to 2 million burglaries every single year in the U.S. That's 15 to 20 million burglaries in the next decade. Okay. So why don't you have a home security system, I ask? And they say, well, the answers vary. Often it's we have insurance. Okay. So how does that protect you? Okay, we don't have a home security system because my husband says, hey, if they're going to break in, they're going to break in. There's really not much we can do. All right, so at 3 a.m., they're going to break in. They're going to break in. There's not much you can do. I'm not settling on that one. Not me. Okay? Right? And then the next one is, and this is the most common, I don't have a home security system because I don't want to live like that. And what they're truly saying is, I don't want to live in fear. I don't want to have to worry. I don't want to be paranoid. Okay. And so what that really means is I would prefer to not think about these things. I would prefer to not acknowledge the existence of predators and thieves. I would prefer to function in denial and just be free of the anxiety in the threats. I don't want to have to think about it. Therefore, I'm going to do nothing about it. That is the reality of most people. So it's 2026. Why hasn't everybody adopted a password manager? Why hasn't everybody froze their credit? Why hasn't everybody installed a home security system? And I'm not saying these things because if you don't do this or else, I'm saying it because, I think at this point, pretty much everybody wears a seatbelt, because if you don't wear the seatbelt, the car won't stop dinging at you. Okay. And we're kind of forced to wear the seatbelt because it won't stop annoying us. But here's the thing. When it comes to security, home security, password management, two-factor authentication, freezing your credit, I don't know that it's lazy. I think that we just truly trust by default, don't want to think it's going to happen to us, function in denial, and ultimately we would rather not have to worry. And people think that security is about worry. I'll ask you guys.
For me, it takes the worry away. If I know I've got a password manager that's going to say, no, you can't use that password, you already used it, and it comes up with this 19-digit jumbled mess for a password, and I go ahead and save it. And we've got, me and Angela, we live out in, Richfield Springs, New York, which is just, I don't know if you know where Cooperstown is, but we're just outside of Cooperstown, New York. And it's a relatively small village town. Mm-hmm. But between the two of us, we've probably got 19 cameras on our buildings.
Yeah.
Because you don't know. Why wait till it happens?
Security alarms, because that's our house is set up with that. Yeah.
So you guys have thought this through. but most people don't. Now, when I actually have 22 security cameras.
Oh,
okay? All right. Maybe a little excessive.
I thought your place was bad.
Maybe a little excessive. But like, here's the deal. Like when I get in front of a live audience, here's what I tell them. I go, I have 22 security cameras. What comes to mind when I say that? Like, what do you think about me, about my disposition, my worldview? I wake up every day. I must be what?
Well, you're definitely not trusting.
What's another word for that?
Skeptical.
What's another word for that?
Paranoid?
There you go. Okay, paranoid. All right. Let's talk about that for a second. Right? Because most people, when it comes to security, they look at security as a form of paranoia, like it's a bad thing. He must be paranoid. He must always worry. He must be looking over his shoulder and thinking people are out to get him. He's paranoid. That's why he does that. As if putting these systems in place, managing risk, right, is about worry and fear and paranoia. Like we default to that. We make security a bad thing because the reality is we don't want to think that bad things can happen to us. It's easier to function in denial and say that security is a bad thing. I don't want that in my life. I just want to be free. This is what we do. This is what we do. And that prevents us from actually effectively engaging in security. We as Americans primarily have a bad relationship with security. We think it's a bad thing. Why would you ever want to engage in anything that was paranoia and worry? And if you know anything about paranoia is a dis-ease of the mind. It's not a happy thing. It's a brutal mental health issue. And I have first close friends and family that have this, and their lives are complicated and sometimes very difficult, and why would you want that? And that's how people look at security. So because we trust by default, because we choose to function in denial, because we look at security as a form of paranoia, that's why many people don't engage in the basics, because they haven't thought it through. They don't know that it's actually a good thing, that it's there to reduce risk. It's like putting on a seatbelt. You don't put the seatbelt on because you worry, because you're paranoid. You put it on because it's a smart thing to do and it gives you control.
Right. Well, it's like seatbelt or insurance. You know what I mean? You have it and you hope you never need it.
It's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it, as they say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't care if people call me paranoid. I know that I don't want people taking my shit. you know?
Well, and I don't think it's always because of that either, just like taking your stuff. I think there is a safety factor, because I know, like, I grew up in kind of a bad neighborhood growing up, and
she's a Jersey girl.
I am. And my dad actually worked for ADT. So back in the day, I mean, we had some of the first alarm systems that were going out there, but in your homes, it's just a given. You had an alarm system. So, it was no big deal. You just, when you came home from school or whatever, you put the key in the door, you punch your number in, you go in the house, before you leave the house, you arm it, it was just the way of living. So it's more, I mean, to me, that was just, well, this is the safety thing, it's like you just do these things.
Right.
Yeah.
Just because my dad said you just do these things.
Do these things or you're going to get beaten tonight.
Do these things.
So, Robert, one last question here. How do you feel about like these, the Alexa devices?
I'm not crazy about anything that's recording my audio all day, every day. I'm not necessarily like anti that stuff. I got cameras all over my house, and I know that some of those cameras, the servers are, at corporations that I don't have control over, right? So I'm not like anti. As far as my privacy is concerned, I do what's necessary, to remove my mobile phone from the web, maybe to get my address off the web, but I'm not like crazy, like, anti all that stuff. Anything that can be used in regards to physically harming me, is my first concern, right? So anything that, like, privacy is actually my third concern. My first concern is anything that I put out there that can use to physically harm me and my family. That's number one. Number two, anything that can be used to siphon money out of my accounts. That's number two. Number three is privacy. Privacy is third on the list. And then beyond that, whatever. All that said, I'm fine with those devices, but just know that, there are privacy implications that it could be used against you.
Right. Okay. Wow. That is a lot of information. You are definitely one gentleman who's got all that stuff in line. I mean, thank you so much for being with us tonight. I mean, I'm hoping that, when we publish this Thursday night and we put it out on social media, that a lot of people come and listen to it. I'm certainly going to tell everybody, you got to listen to this dude, because the stuff that he is talking about is stuff that we all definitely need to know.
Like I said, don't worry about any of this stuff, but let's have more conversations about it. Let's talk about it. Let's do something about it. There's no sense in letting the bad guy win. Look, I've seen the documentaries of the bad guys. They're driving, Rolls Royces. They're driving, 100,000, 150,000 Mercedes Benz. They're driving Lamborghinis. Like, they are living the life. Okay. They're living the life off of the misery of our parents, friends, and family. There's no need for this. And we're smart enough and intelligent enough to deal with it, to do something about it. We just have to overcome the whole denial thing and the paranoia thing and the trusting by default thing. And as long as we engage in the absolute basic best practices, we become tougher targets. That's it. Simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, I think for you, me, and Angela, it sounds simple, but I understand, trying to get other people to understand how easy it can be is sometimes a challenge. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I think just with you saying, Robert, too, just don't worry about that stuff. But it's almost like our natural instinct. Like, once you put that out there, it's like, now we have to worry, you know, well, if you're saying so, then we must have to worry, I mean, I just think about, like, my dad in the age categories that you're talking about too, okay, then there must be concern, there's cause for concern. So we have to be the worrywarts now.
Yeah. We're all capable. We're all smart. We all have ability. It's just a matter of taking action and having these conversations and saying enough is enough with this and making sure that we take care of those that we love. You guys are great. I appreciate you.
Thank you. We appreciate you too, Robert. And I just want to let people know that if you want to get some more information on what Robert is talking about, you can go to his site. That's https protectnowllc.com, and I'm sure you're going to find a ton of information there. And Robert, it has been a privilege to talk to you tonight.
You guys are great. Have a great evening.
You too.
Peace out.
Hey.